Hello, hello, and welcome back to You May Disagree. In the world of rock and metal, we talk a lot about frontmen and singers, but sometimes it's the guy holding the guitar who truly builds the foundation of a band's entire identity. Today, I am counting down my personal top 5 bands that probably would have never reached their highest level of fame if it had not been for their original lead guitarist. Now, of course, this is only my opinion, and as always, you may disagree. With that said, let's get right into it. First up on my list is Dokken. I personally feel that the entire sound of this band belongs solely to George Lynch. He and the bass player Jeff Pilson wrote much of their music. Now, I know Don Dokken wrote for the band too, but the riffs, the energy, and the heavy identity came right from Lynch. As soon as you hear the guitar, you know it's Dokken, and that is all George Lynch. It's sad that Don and George never got along. Imagine the kind of music Dokken could have been pumping out post-Shadowlife. Once he was gone, that signature sound was just never the same. Next up on the list is KISS. I honestly and truly believe that without Ace Frehley, this band would have fizzled out long before their big breakout album, Alive. Before KISS, Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons were fronting a band called Wicked Lester, and it went absolutely nowhere. Before Ace came in, it seems like they were trying to be the Beatles or some kind of eclectic folk rock group. They were all about soft pop, acoustic guitars, and multi-part harmonies. It wasn't until Ace Frehley walked through that door with his raw, gritty, street-level guitar style that everything finally clicked. He gave the band its heavy rock and roll edge, and as far as I'm concerned, without him, they never would have survived long enough to reach stadium levels of fame. Coming in at number 3 is Def Leppard. I am a huge Steve Clark fan, and to me, he was the absolute heart and soul of their classic sound. Even before Phil Collen came along, Steve Clark was the true backbone of that band. They called him the Riffmaster for a reason. He was the mastermind behind those gritty, unforgettable hooks that defined their biggest albums. On albums like On Through the Night, on which Steve wrote most of the riffs and played the majority of the lead guitar parts, and on High and Dry, he took on an even greater role as the lead guitarist and showcased a more refined playing style. He brought a deep understanding of music theory, complex chord inversions, and scales to the band. Even though the band still plays stadiums today, their songwriting has lost that raw, magical rock edge after he tragically passed away. For me, that definitive Def Leppard magic belonged to good old Steve. Coming in at number 2 is the Canadian power trio Triumph. Now, to me, this band could never have truly reached its highest peaks without their original guitarist and singer, Rik Emmett. Rik Emmett is a powerhouse guitarist who never gets the recognition he truly deserves. He is a complete virtuoso, a brilliant songwriter who can shred a heavy rock solo and then flip a switch and play beautiful classical or jazz pieces. To me, he was the driving force behind much of their sound. They tried to keep the band going after he left in 1988, but the signature soul of Triumph walked out the door with Rik. Before we get to my number 1 spot, I have to throw in an honorable mention here for Mick Mars of Motley Crue. Mick was absolutely instrumental in making that band into the global powerhouse they became. His thick, heavy, blues-driven tone was the anchor for all their biggest hits. Later, when his ankylosing spondylitis made things difficult for him, the band essentially abandoned him. It was a terrible way to treat the man who defined their entire musical foundation and sound. To me, they will never be the same without him. And finally, taking the absolute crown at the number 1 spot, Fleetwood Mac. Fleetwood Mac had a history before Lindsey Buckingham, no doubt, but they were not that Fleetwood Mac. They were not the multi-platinum, household name, arena-packing machine they became after Lindsey walked in the door. Without him, that version of Fleetwood Mac never happens. When he left the band, it literally took 2 guitarists, Mike Campbell and Neil Finn, just to replace him on stage. Now that is saying something. Fleetwood Mac might have established a name, but in my opinion, they never could have achieved or maintained that legendary highest peak of fame without the musical genius of Lindsey Buckingham. So there you have it, 5 bands that in my opinion owe their absolute highest peaks of fame to the genius behind the strings. Like I always say, you may disagree, and I want to hear your thoughts. Which lead guitarist do you think built the entire legacy for their band? Drop your picks in the comments, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing to help the channel grow. Thanks for watching, take care, and I will see you next time.